Hi, I'm Dixon Jones, and I thought I'd talk a little bit today about something that's been hot in the press, really, and it's about OpenAI and GSE and Google's generative search experience and ChatGPT, and it's really around bias. And I think that OpenAI may actually need this bias that we're trying to take out of, or this discord to function properly. I'm going to start with a quote from Dr. Robert Ford. He's not a real doctor. It's actually Anthony Hopkins in Westworld. And he said, evolution forged the entirety of sentient life on this planet using only one tool, the mistake. And Westworld is something that really, if you've not watched it, you really should in a world of AI. And I think that a lot of stuff in Westworld suddenly is very, very important to our world right now. But the world is concerned about AI for three or four things. One of them is hallucinations, saying things that are patently untrue, getting itself tied up in knots and then coming up with a complete falsity. Also, they're worried about AI expressing extremist views or saying things that propagate a particular point of view or an unbalanced point of view. And then the last, argument is that AI is unable to create original thought, or at least not able to create rational original thought. And I think that all four of these have some issues that we should at least look back on, because if we look at other neural networks, we're going to see that it's pretty much impossible not to have these failings. But in order to understand what I'm trying to say, we first need to understand a little bit about neural networks, because the large language learning models that OpenAI and Google's search generative experience are all based on, are based around the idea of mimicking the human brain or a neural network. So a human brain has a whole load of nodes and ideas, and all of those nodes pretty much at the back of your brain start to come on and off under different circumstances, and different ones will turn on and off on different occasions. And an idea that's not very, very important, not very many of those nodes will spark up and do anything, so the message doesn't get through to the front of the brain where you start reasoning and looking at the different ideas. And this is pretty much how a model, a large language learning model, works. It's taking these massive amounts of text and trying to take the signals so that when you ask a question, it can come up with an answer based on this information. And so brains are a neural network, but they're not the only neural network in society. Bees, a hive of bees all working together, they're all kind of working out whether they need to stay in one place or where they got to go to get food and stuff. And they're working, each little bee is pretty much working as a node. But an even better way of seeing it is thinking about humankind as a neural network, because if we take each of us as individuals as being a node in a neural network, then we're actually getting quite close to the kind of network that we're going to be seeing with the open AIs of this world. So humankind, each human has an opinion. They do things. If one human decides to walk over a cliff, that's not a sign that everybody's going to go and do it. But ultimately, if that person walks over a cliff and they've got lots of followers, then sometimes other people walk off the cliff with them. And I think that it is interesting to look at humanity and then compare it to these issues of worries about AI, because all new neural networks need these errors to work. So let's take the first one: hallucinations. That the claim that OpenAI is bad, or because it creates patently incorrect things. Well, let's take a really obvious one. Let's take religion. Let's take God. God is either true and exists, or God isn't true and doesn't exist. Half the world believe that he does. The other half believe that he doesn't. So half the world, half the nodes in the humanity neural network are wrong. I don't know which ones, but half of them are wrong. But if everybody accepted that one point of view was correct, then we would find it very, very difficult to then think around the situation to try and find other ways to deal with ideas. And that goes to the same for expressing extremist views. Let's take vaccinations as an example. When we had COVID, of course, the majority of in Britain, we were the first ones with largely doing vaccination rollouts. Almost all of us had vaccinations before this large corpus of society said, "Hey, vaccinations, they're a very dangerous way of moving forward and dealing with COVID." And then a large parts of the world decided that that was not the way forward, and that vaccinations were really, really bad. Now, let's assume that the whole of the world accepted vaccinations, or they were forced upon every single person in society. And then we found that the vaccinations stopped everybody from having children. Then, of course, society would die out. So it is important for Mother Nature to have a group of people taking the opposite view, and so you needed some people not taking vaccinations just in case the definition of vaccinations and that it was going to save society was not correct. So you had to have people in both camps for the best chance of humanity surviving and going on to the next generation. Same with saying that things that propagate a particular point of view or an unbalanced point of view. If you don't have those disagreements, then you're unable to create rational thought. Which leads us to the last one. The the claim that being able to create rational thought is not something that's in the world of AI. When I was doing my MBA, my thesis was actually trying to create some rational thought out of a business problem, and actually it was the Queen of England, and it was when Trump was in power, and he was coming over to the UK, and I was looking at if I was in the position of advising the Queen, should the Queen have allowed Trump to visit and come to Buckingham Palace or Windsor Palace, and try and take a rational view. And I was looking at the thought processes, and it's on my website if you want to look it up on dixonjones.com. And so I tried to think about that in a rational way and come up with a rational decision-making process. But here's the thing. I am only part of a neural network, so I am just a node within humanity. So I am in exactly the same place as the OpenAI is in my decision-making processes. And the only question of whether my thought processes are rational are really when you decide at what level you're thinking about the problem. So whichever problem you may be thinking, if you're thinking at a very micro level, then it's usually very easy to get to an answer. If you're thinking at a very macro level, it's very easy to get to an answer. Anywhere in between, and the murkiness comes through. So, in summary, I think the call for moderation of AI responses is in itself highly problematic. It distorts the very truths that make us human. And the problem is that humans are nasty little animals. We kill, we fight, we only think about ourselves and our own communities. But nature did that to us for a reason. And I think AI is going to have to do this too. It's going to have all these flaws, even if the output becomes suppressed for the sake of society in the short term. I don't know what you think. Make some comments. I'd be interested to know what they are.